Hey, what's up, YouTube? So I'm waiting for my lunch to cook, and I figured I'd make a quick little video about the pros and cons of working from home. Uh, I work entirely remotely, so every day I work from home, and it has a lot of benefits for sure. So I'll discuss those, and then it has some downsides. Um, so we'll start with the pros, and forgive me if I'm like stalling and stuff just because I didn't prepare anything. So I'm just coming up with this on the spot. But uh, pros, you can take a break anytime you want. If you don't feel good that day, you can start work late. You can take a day off if you want to. You can take as many breaks as you need. For me, it's really beneficial because I get to help my wife out. She's at home with the kids, and it lets me, help out with the kids and stuff. And I get to see my kids grow up, so that's really awesome. Uh, let's see. It's another huge pro is that you don't have people like looking over your shoulder. At least you don't have the feeling of people looking over your shoulder. So I know when I used to work in various office places, like you just felt like you had to look busy, even when you weren't busy. Especially if you work in a cubicle. When I got my own office, I would just close the shades, and people didn't know what I was doing in there. I could, you know, not have the pressure of feeling like I always need to look like I was doing something, even when I didn't have anything to do. Like if I'm at home and I don't have anything to do, then I can do other stuff, right? Like I don't feel guilty about taking a break and going for a walk out in nature or playing with my kids or eating lunch or anything like that because I don't have a boss looking over my shoulder all the time. Or at least I don't have the feeling that, like a manager or somebody could walk up at any minute and be like, "Hey, where's, the results on this project or this task?" So that those are all like pretty evident pros, I think, of working from home, working remotely. Uh, some cons: you have to be a diligent and disciplined person because you can take breaks whenever you want, and you can start work whenever you want. So it's okay to start work late, but you got to work late if you have a lot of work to do. So you just have to know how to manage your time efficiently and get all your tasks done. One thing that I run into quite a bit is not that I don't get things done, but it's hard to separate. Like when you work from home, but you also live at home, obviously, it's hard to separate home life from work. And so when you don't have that good work life balance, that can create a lot of stress. Like if your phone is something that gives you access to work and you have your phone on you at all times, then it's hard to get away from work. So if you can just pull out your phone and look at Discord or Facebook groups or Udemy, anything like that, and see messages because people are constantly sending messages to my phone requesting for help. If you see that stuff, then it's hard to know, like, okay, right now I'm not working, so I'm not going to answer that. Like if you got a second, you just pull your phone out and start answering a question. And it's not a good habit. So obviously for this particular video, it doesn't apply to all different types of work, especially web development or programming, because you don't necessarily have people reaching out to you with questions like a TA would. But maybe you have, you know, a client sending you emails in your off hours, and it's kind of the same if you work in an office. You still have access to your phone, so maybe your phone doesn't have your work email on it. I don't know, but the point is you have to manage like when you get those notifications or when you pay attention to those notifications if you're getting them all the time, and when you address that stuff. Otherwise, you end up just working all the time. And I mean, 7 days a week. Like for the longest time, I was just working every single day, and it was hard to know like when to take a day off because it's not a super strict, you know, 9 to 5 schedule. So you're not working like 8 hours and then you're off, 8 hours and then you're off. But the reality is you end up working even more because you're constantly looking at your phone or your computer, on Saturdays and Sundays, and you really have to be structured and disciplined and say, this is when I walk into my room that has the computer and do work. Like these are my work hours. And then when I'm not in there, I'm focusing on my family or, things I need to do around the house, just anything not work related. So that's definitely a con. for working at home. I gotta keep an eye on this food, it's gonna burn. Yeah, so pros, you have a lot of freedom. Cons, with that freedom comes a lot of responsibility. I just sound like Uncle Ben, Spider-Man. Anyway, let's think of some other pros and cons. So everything that I've talked about thus far is obviously from my own experience. My work is a little bit different than somebody else's work if they're working from home. I work for myself and I work for other people, so I have a lot of contract work that I do, and then I have some like more or less full-time gigs that I manage on a regular basis. So that's the other thing. Saying yes or no to opportunities when you work from home is another thing that you have to be disciplined about. Like, I often find that I take on too much work, and then I get super overwhelmed and stressed out, and then that just snowballs, and it can turn into what do you call it? Burnout. Yeah. So burnout is super common among web developers, programmers in general, and it's just like too much time in front of the computer, too much of that kind of stress, not enough work-life balance. And so while it may seem like really nice to work from home, you don't have to commute every day, you don't have to put on a suit or anything like that, you don't have to deal with other people. I mean, you have to interact with people online, obviously, in phone calls, but you don't have to like see people in person. So you don't have to see Bob at the office if you don't like him. Bob is just a random name I picked out of my hat. I actually have several people that I'm friends with named Bob, and they're all really nice people. But yeah, the point is, circling back to what I was talking about previously, it just kind of falls in line with being disciplined. A lot of different work opportunities will come your way, and you have to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And so if you're working for a specific company remotely and you don't have a lot of leeway there in terms of like a non-compete, then you're not going to have any trouble when an opportunity comes your way. You're just going to say no because you're already like basically gainfully employed for someone else. But in my case, I have a lot of freedom where I can like take on contract work along with my regular work. So if you find yourself in that situation, just know that sometimes you have to say no, or you have to schedule it out further ahead. That way you don't just overload yourself with too much work. So this video is going on pretty long. I'm going to get back to my lunch, but hopefully these quick little tips talking about pros and cons of working remotely help you get an idea of what it's like to work remotely. If that's something that you consider for yourself, if you think maybe you're looking for a job but you don't necessarily want to go work in an office and you're considering remote work, it's amazing. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, but there are some things to consider, and hopefully what I mentioned in this video is helpful for you in that regard. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you in the next video.